Hello, all my crafty people out there. My name is Stephanie, and my channel is usually all about upcycling. I usually thrift most of the items that I upcycle or refashion. And today I have this adorable Disney sweatshirt. And it's unfortunately got a couple of stains, one up here and I believe one over here. And I don't want to lose this sweatshirt because it's just super cute. I only paid like, $5 for it at Goodwill. And this is an old St. John's Bay snap denim shirt that I paid, maybe you can see that, $6.49 for. And so between the two of them, not too much into it. But I'm not as big a fan of the denim shirt as I am the sweatshirt. So I'm going to switch out the sleeves. And I'm going to be absolutely honest with you. I had a different shirt in mind to do this and kind of got started. So, I took the sleeves off already. But I wanted to show y'all what the shirt looked like. So now we're going to take these and we're going to put them on here. And yes, I'm going to show you how I took everything off and put everything back together. So let's have some fun. If you like this kind of content, like, subscribe, check it out. We have a good time. So let's go have some fun with the new project. Okay, everybody, as promised, I'm going to show you how I took these sleeves off. These sleeves, I wanted to preserve as much of the sleeve as I could, so I actually seam ripped these off, and I'll show a short video. I'll fast forward through it, but I did seam rip each sleeve off. And that way, like I said, I preserve every bit of the sleeve that I can. At first I was worried about it being too short. Now I'm not really worried about that anymore because I changed the shirt. So, again, I'll show you a short clip of me taking the sleeves off. And then we will work on these sleeves. So what I want to do with these sleeves is I'm going to take them off, obviously, but I want to preserve this stitch line here because I want to be able to slip the sleeve inside, right side to wrong side, into this sleeve and stitch over this stitch line, or right beside the stitch line, almost like a double stitching, to preserve this. And also I'm going to cut, when I cut the sleeve off, I'm going to cut about a 1/2 inch, maybe even a little bit more, outside of this seam, so I can fold that in and catch it when I push the sleeve in, and it'll keep a nice clean line there without any fraying. I won't have any fraying issues. When I did this on the vest, the sleeve, there wasn't a sleeve to take out, so there was no point, there was no chance of fraying. It was already closed up in the seam around the armhole because it was a vest. But this one, like I said, when we're going to take the sleeve off, we're going to have a fraying here. So and I don't want it to fray, and I don't want it to be on top of the sleeve. I want it to be tucked in nice and neat. And one more thing I forgot to mention in the intro, I am not going to be wasting the rest of this awesome shirt. The rest of this awesome shirt is going to be made into a hood. And I'm going to put the hood right in this collar line up top, so I'll have a hoodie. I forgot to mention that. I was so embarrassed with the fact that I was fixing to take those sleeves out of those arms. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut these sleeves off. And again, I'm just going to cut them. I'm going to give myself a good line of fabric there so I can tuck it in. And I'm going to start at the bottom. And I always like to start at the bottom. It's the most forgiving piece. Also, unfortunately, it's the thickest piece. But it's not too bad on this. And again, I'm just leaving a nice healthy little bit of fabric around the edge, so I can tuck it in, and I'll show you how I'm going to do that with the sleeve, and that will make a nice seam line to keep it from fraying. Good cotton, good denim will only fray so far. It will not continually fray. It will eventually stop. But we don't want to take the chance on how long that might take. So, one sleeve down. I'm going to cut the other one off. And then you and me can get back. When we get back, I'll show you a clip of me taking these off, and then when we come back, I'll show you how we're going to insert them into this piece and sew around to make the sleeve change up. And then I have a pattern that I'm going to use for the hood, and we'll examine that after we put the sleeves in. All right, here's our cut sleeve, and here is our shirt. And what we want to do is we want to insert this sleeve into this shirt, just like this. Obviously, we're going to follow the seam line and make it nice and neat. But when we do that, we want to tuck that little extra that I left out beyond the seam, and that's going to make a nice clean seam line. And again, like I said, it's going to keep it from fraying. So the best way to start this is from the bottom, or at least I think it is, because what happens if you have any extra, you'll leave it up top. And honestly, it's a lot easier to fold in some little darts or pleats at the top than it is at the bottom. So this is the complicated part as far as just trying to get your position right to make it easy to insert this sleeve. And I'm going to follow this stitch line. This sleeve was obviously double stitched. It was put together rather well, and you will see how I struggled to get it apart, and or would have seen. And I'm going to push it in here. I'm going to follow this seam, and I'm going to start pinning it. Now, this is a not complicated, but it's a tedious kind of pinning, because I'm pinning it together like this instead of right sides together. So it'll take me a little bit, but essentially I'm going to pin all the way around, and I'm going to have to really work that little line right there. And we'll just keep on pinning all the way around. Now, I am not going to torture you with this at all, but I'll bring you back when I'm pinning in the second sleeve to show you how the pinning went. And that way you won't have to listen to me cuss about it. So, because it's going to be tedious. All right, so I can't even get that one on, but you understand what I'm saying. We're going to turn that cuff in, or that excess in, line up with that stitch line, or what was the stitch line on the sleeve, and just start pinning in until we get it all pinned, and then we'll go to the machine and sew them in. So it'll take me a little bit. I'll come back, like I said, once I've got both of them pinned in, and we'll be headed to the machine. All right, I got them all pinned on. It's kind of a fiddly the way you gotta pin them one where you're pushing them into the sleeve, but this actually has worked out quite perfect. I mean, there's not even any bulk left in the sleeve. It's really quite a perfect fit. So I'm going to take this to the machine, and we're going to take the excess part of the arm off and insert it and do a seam. We're going to seam right along this seam that already exists, and maybe double it up by doing a seam beside it to make sure we're extra secure. And once we've done that, then we're going to get started on our hood. And I'll show you that pattern when we're done with the sleeves. So let's go to the machine and zip them on. Okay, we're here at the machine. I've got both my sleeves pinned on with the right side of the sleeve inserted and touching the wrong side or the back side of the sleeve opening. We're going to slip it right over our neck here, and we're going to sew it from the outside, obviously, and we're going to sew it with the as close as we can to this stitch that's already on the shoulder or on the sleeve opening. And then we'll probably go back and do a double stitch just to make sure. And I'm going to start at the bottom. I always like to start at this bottom seam, because if I start at the bottom seam and end at the bottom seam, then if there's any little excess, it'll be underneath the arm. Because I've already pinned it, I'm pretty sure I shouldn't have too much excess. The only thing about this particular spot is it is thick, and it's going to be tough to go through. In fact, I might try to thin it out a little. Let me see if I can. Yeah, I'm going to thin this out a little. Take our really sharp little scissors here. See if we can weed out a little bit of that seam. I've already split the seam here, so it'll fold against each other. But taking a little bit out of this will help. So it's not going to affect the seam, because this is the serge line that protects the seam from fraying, so it's not going to affect it because I'm going to be folding this over. So we're just going to clean out just a little bit of it there. And I've seen people do that different ways, you know, try to lessen the load there. So it's something you can do a different. Some people have even taken hammers to the seam. Whatever cranks your boat, doesn't matter to me. I just do what I can to lessen it a little bit. That helped a little bit there. I'm going to get a running start at it from one side. I'm going to switch my needle over to the far left. Drop it where the presser foot is right on top, or will be where the stitch line will be right on top of that stitch line. And I'm just going to slowly go around, and I'm not worried about back stitching, because I'm going to meet up with that stitch from the other side. I'm going to start taking my pins out, and I'll get back with y'all when I'm finishing up the other sleeve, or better yet, when we're going to get ready to do the hood. No, I did finish all of the seaming on both the sleeves, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back. You see how it's got these double seams on most denim? Well, I'm not going to do quite that wide a seam. I think that's what? That's a 1/4 inch. I might do a 1/4 inch, but I'm going to do a stitch inside this line to just give it a little more security, and to pick up that line we've got in here where the two sleeves meet. we're not serging it, so this is just going to give us that little extra. And that's all we've got left to do on the sleeves. And I have to tell you, I'm just so excited that these went in perfectly. It's almost like these sleeves were made for this shirt. So got lucky, girls and boys. Just can't believe it. But once I've finished putting this second stitch line on, we're going to go over to the table and start working on our hood. All right, everybody. The sleeves went in great. I mean, honestly, these went in so well. You would have thought they were meant for this shirt. The sizing was perfect. So I got lucky. Sometimes I get lucky. So we've got our sleeves in. Now what we want to do is we want to make a hood. And I've measured this collar from this point to this, which is kind of the inside of the collar fly, because I don't want to go all the way over that snap, obviously. And it's about 17.5 inches. So, that being said, what I want to do is I want to make a hood. Now, I thrifted this, well, I got it out of I think this came out of like a garage sale kind of thing for one of our local animal shelters. They have a bunch of patterns, and this one was in there. It's a quick sew, but it doesn't have any directions. The pattern is uncut and brand new, but the directions are missing. So it's quick sew 3085, but you could use anything, including a hood you already have, you know, like a hooded garment you already have, to measure this out. But I'm just going to try and make it easy on myself, which usually means it ends up being difficult. But anyway, this is the hood part of the pattern. So what I'm going to do, this is the hood right here. This part. So what I'm going to do is I've measured it up, and from here to the side of the small here is about 9 3/4 inches. And the reason I'm going with that number is, if you take 17.5 and you divide it by 2, you get 8 3/4. But I figure I'm going to need at least a 1/2 inch. Well, maybe not a whole 1/2 inch, but I'm going to need some seam allowance, because there's going to be a seam here and all the way around it. And this is why. This is going to be four pieces. I can't count to 4. 4 pieces. 2 outer shell pieces that'll be sewn down this middle. This will be the part that's sewn onto the collar. And then this seam will be joining the lining. That's 2 more pieces. 2 more of the same pieces. And it's going to be sewn kind of like you would a pillow. You know, where you're sewing everything together, and then you'll leave a little opening, or we'll leave a little opening to turn it inside out, and then we'll catch that seam when we sew it onto the collar. It may not be clear as mud right now, but I think it'll work out. And I think the small is as small as I want to go. I do want it to have some kind of hood, but if I go any bigger, I don't think it's going to fit on my collar. And if I go with this size and it's a little big, I can put into like a dart in the back or something like that to take up any kind of slack. So I think I'm going to go with the small, and I'm going to trace it first. So I'm going to grab some good old tracing paper, and I'm going to trace that, because I don't want to cut this. There's no need to cut it. It's a good pattern. I love that it's on this white paper as opposed to this usual thin paper. So I'm going to trace it, and once I finish tracing it, then I will lay it out on the fabric, and I'll come back with y'all, and we'll pin it down, cut it out, and we'll be at the machine. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Okay, got the hood traced and cut out. It looks huge, but I think it'll work. I don't think it'll be too small, that's for sure. Because if I'm measuring it somewhat properly, yeah, that should be plenty long enough. All right, now we got to lay out the rest of our sweatshirt. And I went between two different ideas. I like this black flannel for the warmth and feel of it, but it made the sweatshirt look more faded. So I went ahead and went with the red because Mickey Mouse, you can't go wrong with red. So I have this piece. It's just a piece of red cotton. I got it out of the scrap bin at the local Hoblob. And so it's nothing special, just plain red fabric. I mean, it's a good cotton. It's not thin. It's nice thick cotton. It's like a quilter's cotton. And then the shirt, remember we've got a couple of stains, but I really don't think that's going to matter on the hood because the hood is going to be in the back, usually folded down, but we will try to avoid those if we can. So I'm just going to stretch the shirt out. And the hood, because it's meant for stretchy fabric, like a jersey or whatever on this particular pattern I'm taking this one from, it does have a stretch line, but it doesn't matter because this sweatshirt's stretchy both ways, so it's not going to be affected. Now, let's see if we can, I think we can avoid the stains altogether and make the best use of the shirt. I think if I do it this way, then this little stain right here will be inside the collar, and you won't even see it from the outside, regardless of if the hood's up or down. So I think that's going to be it, and I'll avoid this stain up here. And I don't want to push it too far into the arms. This one looks a little grayed, so get a good portion of everybody's face. Get some Mickey and some Goofy. Yeah, I think that'll work. All right, let's just, and I've already got the red fabric below it, so that's not gonna be a problem. We're just gonna cut it all at once. Now, I'm still a pinner. I know some people like to use weights, and that's cool. I've just never, just never been able to get that to work for me. I am going through quite a bit of fabric on this, though. And tempted to break out my new scissors, the electric ones, but I'm afraid they'd be a little too wily for this. I got to test them out first and see how they feel in my hand before I go cutting on a final piece of a project. So this is me pinning. I'm going to finish pinning up, and I will cut it out. Of course, all that is following the pattern. And once I cut it out, you and I will meet over, well, actually, yeah, we'll have to meet over at the machine because I'll have to make the hood before we can put it on the shirt. So we'll meet over at the machine when I'm sewing these seams up and sewing the two together via this seam. And it's, like I said, it'll come together, I think. All right, I thought about it. I think we're going to serge these, at least the seam, you know, down the back of each of the hood, each piece of the hood. This one doesn't matter. It's right sides or wrong sides because they're both exactly the same. So I'm going to serge down the arch of the hood, and I'm going to do the same with the other part. down the curve of the back of the hood and the lining. And then we're going to turn our Mickey Mouse one right sides together. We're going to do the same thing. And then once we're done this serge line, we're going to go over to the sewing machine and sew the rest of the seams together and leave us a little magic hole to be able to get them all turned inside out. And then we'll go attach it to our shirt. So I will get back with y'all in a few minutes. Let me get some of this red fuzz off of here. All right, we've got both of our hoods sewn together down that back seam line of the hood, like that. So now I'm going to leave this one turned right sides together, and I'm going to turn this one right sides out. And the reason I'm going to do that is I'm going to push this one. I'm going to just take my fingers and kind of press out that seam. I'm going to take this one and put it inside of, we'll put it inside our hood. So we have our linings, so the right sides are meeting. And then we're going to sew all the way around the entire edge of this except for a little hole. So what we'll do is right here on the back, on the bottom, we'll leave a little space, probably about a, I don't know, 3 or 4 inch space right there, and that will let us turn the hood inside out. That way we won't have any seams. If we were attaching this directly to the garment, we wouldn't have to worry about closing up this seam, because you know we would be enclosing it with the process. But since this one's going on a finished garment on the neck, I don't want it to be rough edge, so I'm going to finish this up and then we'll top stitch around it to make sure it's nice and clean. So that being said, I'm going to start down here at this edge where I'm going to leave the opening. So I'm just going to start over here and go to the corner directly. Usually you would start in the center, and I understand that, the center at the top of the hood, but this is not going to be a problem if we start over here. I don't believe, as long as we make sure it's still lining up, we should be able to catch it all. I'm just making sure it's lining up seam to seam here. Give it a little shake. All right, I'm going to start here, and I'm going to, I think I'm going to use the foot as my guide, and that will give me right at a ½ inch if I use the foot as my guide. So I'm putting it up against this side of my foot, and I've got my needle moved over all the way to the left. Let's see. Now I can't find my pedal. There we go. I want to kind of double stitch this up a little bit because it'll get rough when I'm turning it. It'll be worn a lot right there. There we go. And now I'm just going to go around, all the way around the edges here. Like I said, leaving that pocket, and I'll get back with you when I've sewn around and I'll show you how that hole works. So we're going to turn it inside out. Okay, just wanted to show you that I've got it all sewn together, and I left myself a little hole right here, and that's what I'm going to use to turn it out. But first I'm gonna clip these corners, give it as much a chance of being smooth as possible. So I'm clipping the corners. There we go. We're gonna go through the process I'll get my hand in here. I'll start from the top and pull it out like this. I'm just snatching it out from inside out. All right, let's see what we get. All right, take our little pokey thing, give it a little poke there, get the corner out, and then we're just going to push the hood in. I can press this to give it a little bit more crisp look, and then what I'll do after I press it is I'll do a top stitch around the edge of the hood. And I thought about a couple of different ways. I thought about, instead of just sewing it directly to the shirt, I even thought about using buttons to make it like removable. But I was worried that the buttons would be kind of irritating on the neck. Sorry, you're not seeing me try to turn this corner out. Let's see. Got some fabric there. All right, I'm getting the corner out. And then once we get the corner out, we'll be able to kind of sharpen the whole thing. Yeah. And that is what our hood looks like right there. And it's, like I said, it's sewn up on the bottom, so we don't have that gap, I mean that raw edge that I have to worry about. So hopefully it's going to fit on the neck of my shirt. So let me go press it, and then like I said, I'll come back and I'll top stitch all the way around, and we'll get back when we're putting it on the shirt. Okay, I've tried on the hood and it fits, and I'm putting it on the shirt right now. Now, it is as I suspected, not perfect. I have pinned it all the way down to the snaps down here, and it fits all the way to the back, and then it's got like maybe not even quite an inch worth of gap there, or excess. So I'm just going to put some small pleats to make it work from the back, and that won't cause it a problem at all. And then we're going to go over to the machine, and we're just going to sew down this line and be done with it, and I'll try it on for y'all. I think it's going to look super cute. I'm excited. So like I said, all I did was pin it to this is the top of the collar. I pinned it to the inside of the collar with the right side to the wrong side of the collar, the inside of the collar I should say. Maybe that's a better way of saying it. And like I said, we're just going to go stitch down this line, and it's following the natural curve that it should. It had a curve in it, which necklines do because they go around your neck. And let's go check it out after I sew it down. I might take you out to the machine, show you how I'm going to sew it down. Okay, everybody, we're all done. Got the sleeves added in. They're double stitched on the sides there on the seam lines. I think they came out really good, and I'm definitely happier with the darker denim. I'm glad I changed the plan. Again, the hood is sewn in behind the collar, or inside I should say. And I think it turned out pretty cute too. I could wear it as a shirt itself. It's big enough for me to snap, or just wear it over something. I kind of like it as an over shirt like this, like an actual hoodie. But I was able to keep the collar and everything, and pretty happy with it. If you like this kind of content, I upcycle from thrifted items mostly, and we do some refashion, we do some resizing, we do some figuring out. I don't always have a plan, and a lot of times it changes. But if you like this kind of stuff, just like, subscribe, comment, let me know what you think. If you've got some ideas, shoot them my way, and I will catch y'all on the flip side of our next project.